house was already awake when I arrived. That was the first thing I felt, even before I unlocked the door. Not saw, not heard, felt. A pressure in the air, like stepping into a room where an argument had just ended, the words still hanging invisible and sharp. I told myself it was nerves. The place sat at the end of a narrow road, surrounded by trees so tall they blocked the sky. No neighbors, no traffic noise, just the wind brushing against dead leaves. Perfect, I'd thought. Quiet, cheap, temporary. The key turned easily, too easily. Inside, the air smelled old, not dusty, stale, like breath trapped for years with nowhere to go. I closed the door behind me, and the sound echoed longer than it should have, stretching, thinning, until it faded into something that felt like listening. I stood there, hand still on the knob, waiting. Nothing happened. I laughed quietly at myself and dragged my suitcase across the floor. The sound was wrong, not the scrape of wheels, more like something being pulled reluctantly, as if the floor didn't want to let it go. The living room was bare, except for a couch facing a blank wall. No TV, no pictures, just an outlet with a dark ring around it, like something had burned there once. The ceiling fan hung low, its blades perfectly still. I didn't turn it on. The kitchen clock read 2:11 a.m. That bothered me, because I knew it wasn't. I'd checked my phone in the car. It was just after midnight. I took out my phone again. No signal. The clock ticked. I stood there longer than I should have, listening to the sound. Each tick felt delayed, like it was deciding whether or not to move forward. I unplugged it. The ticking continued. I froze, staring at the dark screen, the cord dangling uselessly in my hand. Tick, tick, tick. The sound wasn't coming from the clock anymore. It was coming from the walls. I slept upstairs with the door open. I told myself it was because the room felt stuffy, but the truth was simpler. I didn't trust what I couldn't see. Sleep didn't come easily. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt watched, not from one direction, but from everywhere at once, as if the room itself was aware of me lying there, breathing. Sometime later, much later, I heard footsteps, slow, careful, bare feet on wood. They stopped outside my door. I held my breath, heart pounding so loud I was sure it could hear it. The silence stretched until my ears rang. And a whisper, so close it felt like it brushed my skin. "Don't pretend you're asleep." My eyes flew open. The hallway was empty. I didn't sleep after that. Morning came weak and gray. The trees outside barely moved, as if frozen mid-sway. I made coffee, though I never drank it. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. That's when I noticed the marks. Handprints, small, smudged, pressed into the wall beside the stairs, low enough that they couldn't belong to an adult. The fingers were too long, the palms too narrow. They weren't there the night before. I wiped at them with a towel. They didn't fade. They sank deeper. I left the house before noon. I told myself I wouldn't come back. I even drove past the road without slowing down. But 10 minutes later, I was turning around, my hands moving on the wheel without my permission. The house looked different when I returned, closer. That night the sounds were louder, scratching behind the walls, soft thumps from below the floor. The ceiling fan began to turn on its own, slowly, unevenly, as if something heavy clung to one blade. At 2:11 a.m., every light in the house shut off at once. My phone vibrated. One message. You heard us. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor face up, still glowing. Another message appeared. We've been practicing your voice. From the hallway came a sound that made my stomach twist. My voice, calling my name, perfectly. I backed into the bedroom, slamming the door, locking it, pushing the dresser in front of it. The door handle turned once, twice, slowly. Open up, my voice said, calm and patient. You're hurting us. The floor beneath the bed shifted. Something pressed upward, stretching the wood, forming shapes beneath the carpet. Fingers, too many of them. The whisper came again, not from the door this time, but from under the bed. You came inside us. The floor gave way. I fell. The basement wasn't on the floor plan. The air down there was wet and warm, pulsing like a living thing. The walls weren't concrete. They moved when I touched them. The smell was unbearable, metal and rot and breath. Faces emerged from the walls, not whole faces, pieces, eyes opening one by one, mouths forming just long enough to speak. We stayed quiet, they said together. That was the rule. A shape detached itself from the far wall and stood. It looked like me, but wrong, thinner, stretched, its joints bent in places joints shouldn't, its mouth open too wide, splitting its face down the middle. You filled the space, it said. Now we can move. Behind it, the walls began to breathe faster. I ran. The stairs appeared where they hadn't been before, twisting upward into darkness. As I climbed, hands reached from the walls, gripping my ankles, my wrists, my throat. They weren't trying to pull me back. They were trying to learn. I burst through the basement door and into the living room. The couch was gone. In its place was a mirror. I saw myself standing there, screaming. Behind my reflection, the house leaned inward. The front door opened on its own. Outside was not the road. It was the inside of the house again. Smaller, closer. The walls pressed in, the ceiling lowering inch by inch. The ticking returned, louder now, inside my head. 211, always 211. The mirror cracked. My reflection smiled. You don't live here, it said. You're the space we leave behind. The lights came back on. I was standing in the driveway. Morning sun, birds, wind. The house looked normal, empty. I never went back inside. Weeks later, in a different city, I woke up at 2:11 a.m. My bedroom wall was warm. It was breathing, and somewhere inside it, something whispered in my voice, practicing.